came out to see him, visited him as a friend.
So I told him I wanted a divorce, and he got a gun and he was going to kill us both, he said. And so I calmed him down, and I said, let's go talk to somebody. And he says, okay. And I said, let's go talk to Dr. Erickson. And so he agreed, and I called, and they said we could come in. It was like at night. We didn't have office hours then, but it was like late at night. In fact, I think Dr. Erickson took people at different times because he lived in his home. Sometimes he would call him at odd hours, and I think he took people like maybe at midnight if they needed it or something. Anyway, he came, and he was in the office. He went in the office, and first he talked to my ex-husband in the office for a while, and then he called me, and he said, Margie, he's no good, get rid of him. That was the first time Dr. Erickson and my ex-husband had met each other, yeah. And he said, you know, he's going to kill you, he's no good, he's never going to be any good, and he's not. And my ex-husband, and I said, yeah, you know, I agreed, I knew, but at the time I just couldn't, I said no, but I will, but later, you know, and I did about a month or two later. I did finally tell him to make him move out. It's been about 25 years now since the last time since I was married to him. And the last time he called me, about 6 months ago, he said he had been out of the country for a year. He'd been in Greece. And we discussed what happened, and something about he had charged up and written checks and everything to the tune of about $500,000, and he had to leave the country. So obviously Dr. Erickson knew what he was talking about.
He tried to detach me from both of them. Now, he kind of soft-pedaled my mother at first. You got to understand that my mother encouraged me to work with Erickson. She knew that if I ever became involved with Erickson, that it would mean the end of our relationship. I'm sure she knew it. It's one of the most selfless things that I know. On numerous occasions, she tried to get me to move into the apartment with her until my legs would heal. Stop working, stop everything. Well, see, you know, you're dealing with a situation there where you can't fault her intent. I mean, she was doing all that she knew. It just happens that what she knew to do would have destroyed me. That he had a conversation the previous night with my father, and he had, quote, never heard a father express such contempt for his son in his entire career, unquote. Now, I don't know if that's true. I mean, you know, I don't know what that means. I know that he believed that. And that was good enough for me. And I also have recovered my own appearance to my satisfaction. And I hope that that's okay with Erickson. I mean, I kind of feel like he knows, you know, he's around and he knows.
Erickson worked in a very pragmatic American way. He gave examples from farm life and not from a scholarly literature. He took a practical, normal family life approach in a way that was new in the field of psychiatry.
When Erickson had space in his new home for seminars, he taught many hundreds of young professionals. His training sessions were unusual. They were like lessons in life or individual therapy in a group setting.
And there were lots of people there and lots of electronic equipment, tape recorders and things like that. He started talking, and I was amazed. He was, first of all, he said something that really took me back. He said there's someone here who was sent off to boarding school when he was 15, even though he'd asked not to be, or something like that, which was a completely accurate detail from my life. It didn't really seem like he said it. It just sort of seemed like it came out. And I looked around, and I wasn't about to say anything because there were all these strangers there. I mean, he must have talked for 4 hours straight. And I couldn't believe I actually sat there and paid attention that long.
There was one about anxiety, about a person with anxiety, and that he was talking about a fellow climbing a pole and learning to be feeling secure even though he was elevated. And I was thinking, God, this is like anxiety about succeeding or something, and he's, I wonder if he's talking about me, and that the man learned that sitting in a chair, he felt secure whether the chair was 20 feet in the air or the chair was on the floor. He was still perfectly secure.
I was so amazed that he was so much more alive than I feared he would be. I really expected to find a man more ravaged by his own problems and illness. And when I met him, he seemed so alive.
I spent, I'd say, a good deal of time in his office in a trance, in essence, listening to him. I became very curious during that time about how to be in a trance and how to also stay in a room at the same time. So that was a really interesting part of my learning with him, which is something that has become a very basic part of the way that I do therapy, and also how I teach is in terms of how to try to find a connection between what Erickson called the unconscious and also stay socially responsible.
I had been spending the last 15 years with medicine people, participating in rituals and ceremonies and understanding something about the mystery of the mind. And all of a sudden, here was a psychiatrist, traditionally trained, who was saying things like, it's in the telling of the story.
It was almost an uncomfortable feeling having his interests focused upon me, and yet so powerfully healing, kind of, in a way, is that his attention was so undivided and so focused, and he seemed to have such a joy at attending to me and to my reactions.
The other thing that really blew me away about Erickson was how comfortable he was with his own weirdness, and that gave me a lot of permission.
He changed the way that I viewed therapy. He changed the way that I viewed the problems that people encounter in their lives, from one originally based on pathology